Welcome, everyone, to another Taka Talk with me, your host, Dr. Scott McQuate. What is a Taka Talk? Well, the Greek word taka means quick. So these Taka Talks are intended to be quick, to-the-point snapshots of articles I've written or things I've uncovered over the years from my in-depth exegesis of the Bible by using the proper, ancient, and highly elucidating method of interpretation that was hidden for thousands of years until I discovered it around 25 years ago. Just like an etymological archaeologist, I found it and dug it up. Through tens of thousands of hours of mind-numbing, painstaking research in dusty libraries, sifting through little-known texts and many versions of the Bible. Over the years since that time, I've refined this method, and I've used it now for decades to uncover more truth than you can imagine. You see, Daniel is told to shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end, when knowledge would increase in Daniel 12:4. And that's precisely what I do. And I've proven this method to be accurate thousands of times. And on my journey, I've been able to explain the meaning of countless words, parables, stories, and passages in the Bible that theologians, pastors, and biblical scholars have never been able to accurately explain in over 2,000 years. 99.999% of what I share with you in these talks, just as in my books and articles, cannot be found anywhere else on the planet because it requires very specific, precise methods of exegesis, which is just a Greek word meaning interpretation, to uncover them. And at this current time, I'm the only one who uses this method. So, why me? The Father called me to do this work decades ago when I was a young man and allowed me to uncover this ancient method for a time such as this. It's not taught in any seminary or university, and if you pay close attention, you'll see just how powerful it is for explaining long-hidden mysteries that have perplexed humanity for millennia. So, stop what you're doing, grab a pen and paper, stop scrolling, and sit back and enjoy this episode of Taka Talk. Today I want to talk with you about the Ark of the Covenant. Did you know that this story is an allegory, like most of the stories in the Bible? Now, to be sure, I'm not going to share all of the details I've uncovered about this story, because those details are for the serious truth seekers at the inner circle, who are members and students and understand the real value of the truth, and show how serious they are by acquiring a membership. Because they do, they get the raw, unfiltered, nitty-gritty details that make the hair on the back of your neck stand up when you hear it. But rest assured, what I'm going to share with you today is not available anywhere else on the planet. So let's get into it. In this story, Moses receives what the Bible calls the tablets of law and proceeds to place them into what the Bible calls the ark, which is described as a wooden box that is covered in gold and carried on poles. These descriptions are simply metaphors to hide the real meaning of the story, so it could only be understood at the time of the end, when humanity was ready to accept the unadulterated truth, and that time is now. So, are you ready for the unadulterated truth? I've written an entire book explaining these things called The Ark of the Covenant Explained at paxeonpublishing.com. It's Paxeon publishing.com, or you can read it by becoming at least a basic member at innercircle.us. Firstly, about this story, we know that the word law is simply another way of saying code, as in the code given by a man named Hammurabi, who is considered the first lawgiver. Interestingly, the name Hammurabi is a perfect anagram of the name Huram-Abi, which is the name the old Hebrew scribes used to refer to Abraham, who the Bible says obeyed God's voice and kept his charge, commandments, statutes, and laws in Genesis 26:5, long before the Exodus account of this story in question. Knowing this, we can see that the law was clearly known prior to this story of Moses and the so-called law he received on Mount Sinai. So, what is this story really about then? When we apply the proper method of exegesis and go back to the root language, we find that the more ancient word for tablet is actually tabat and means a spiral. So what Moses actually obtained on what the Bible calls the mountain is literally a spiral of code. In the next part of the story, we're told that Moses places these tablets of law, which we now know is a reference to a spiral of code, into what the Bible calls the Ark. And the word Ark in Hebrew is Aron. And when we apply the proper ancient method of exegesis I discovered decades ago and split this word, as we're told to do in 2 Timothy 2:15, when it tells us to rightly divide, which is the Greek word orthotomeo, meaning to cut, we get two words from the ancient root, which are ar and un, ar-un. This is truly fascinating because ar also means spiral, and un means the people. So what is literally happening in this story is the one called Moses is placing a spiral of code into the spiral of the people. We would call this newly created two-sided genetic construct DNA. So the story of Moses bringing the law down from the mountain is literally an allegory used to hide the real story, which is the creation of two spirals in order to create two-sided DNA. As you can see, when we apply the ancient proper methods of exegesis to the words and stories of the Bible, they truly come alive, revealing long hidden truth that was buried only to be discovered at a time such as this, in the time of the end. You see, it was all prophesied to be revealed. The details of this story can be found in my book, The Ark of the Covenant Explained, at paxionpublishing.com. Or you can read it at the Inner Circle at innercircle.us when you become at least a basic member. If you would like me to teach you these things one-on-one over the phone every month, please choose the apprentice membership at that website. What I've shared with you today is a mere morsel of the gigantic picture of what I've uncovered over the last 25 years and have compiled in my 19 books and countless articles at innercircle.us. You can learn to your heart's content and discover truly mind-blowing secrets that no pastor, theologian, or biblical scholar is able to tell you at that website. And if you are a pastor or theologian or Bible scholar, you also are welcome to join. If you're hungry for the truth about UFOs, orbs, DNA, the pyramids, Three-Eye Atlas, the parables of Jesus, the soul, the meaning of the book of Revelation, including the bowls, the four horsemen, New Jerusalem, and so much more, please join us today at innercircle.us. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Taka Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Scott McQuate, and I'll leave you with this one question. When the truth shatters your beliefs, will you still cling to the shards? I hope not, because that could prove to be hazardous to your spiritual well-being. Learn the truth Christ tried to teach that's been deeply hidden for millennia, and walk in the light in a world that is getting darker by the day. Thanks for listening to this episode of Taka Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Scott McQuate, signing off. Bye for now.